TNA Impact on April 9th delivered the most unhinged episode of the week across any wrestling promotion. Yes, that includes SmackDown. We had tables, we had violence, we had 3 generations of knockout legends brutalized in a parking lot, and we had... And I need to understand, I am not making this up. A child being paid to lead a man into a cemetery so he could get attacked by a veteran wrestler. Welcome to the T-Drop. Strong brew, no soft behavior. This is TNA Wrestling, and this week they gave us reasons to love them and question their entire creative department at the same time. So let's get into it. Moment number 3 of this week's TNA is Kazarian bribing a kid to take Elijah into a cemetery. I genuinely cannot believe I'm about to describe this on camera. Frank Kazarian, Elijah, and a child. Here's what happened. A kid reaches out to Elijah and tells him he wants him to come visit his father's grave at a cemetery. I guess Elijah agreed to it. I don't know why he would. Elijah, being a decent human being, I guess that's the storyline they're going with, agrees. He goes to the graveyard. He's standing there at a grave, and that's when Frankie Kazarian jumps him from behind and attacks him with a rock. He beat him up with a damn rock to his head, sent him crashing into a tree. Then Kazarian pulls out money and tries to pay the child. The kid tells him, we agreed on 100, not 20. Where does that creative story and pitch gets approved? I want to know, because what meeting did someone sit in and say, yes, cemetery, yes, child, yes, the $20 versus $100 negotiation. Let's do that. Let's do that as a story. Now, look, is it dumb? Absolutely. Is the fans screaming about it all over Reddit and Twitter? Of course they are. Absolutely they will be. And that's exactly why it's number 3 on the list, because in wrestling, what did I just watch also gets clicks just as fast as something that was incredible wrestling-wise. The real question here is simple. Is TNA building Kazarian versus Elijah into something worth more to care about heading into Rebellion? Because right now, the booking has them showing something somewhere in between mildly entertaining and actively confusing. Kazarian deserves better. Material-wise, than doing a story than paying a kid. And honestly, so does Elijah, but hopefully this pays off in the future. We will have to see. We move to the number 2 segment, and this one actually hits because we even got to the match or a storyline to it. But anyway, TNA served up one of the most emotionally charged segments of the entire Rebellion build, and they didn't need a single bell rung to do it. Taryn Tyrell came out to New Orleans, and she was in a real moment. She did a real segment with no gimmick, no theatrics, just Tyron talking about regret, about watching the division she poured herself into keep growing and into an industry that keeps growing without her, about wanting one more moment on her own terms at this point. And frankly, she earned every second of it. But then the Elegance brand showed up, and what I'm assuming is freaking Frank and Rocky from a Rocky Horror Picture version of a wrestling person. The Elegance brand's personal concierge interrupted and put something up on the screen that stopped the whole segment cold. They showed Mickie James, ODB, both of them laid out backstage before the show, or before this segment, before they even got a chance to get to the ring. The Elegance brand didn't just attack one wrestling legend and a new roster star. They basically just neutralized the biggest weapon Tyrion had heading into this night. They took out Mickie James, a Hall of Famer, and ODB, one of the most beloved personalities in TNA right now, without even knowing the fans the satisfaction of seeing them fight back. That was a good seat of heat for the Elegance brand. And it's obviously real villain heat at the same time. By Elegance, Heather by Elegance, and Mr. Elegance, they ran through security, they ran through legends, and they stood tall over Taryn Tyrell's body. Every knockout fan watching this segment is going to Rebellion wanting to see who of those 3 gets theirs. The question I'm pulling in the comments, though, is this enough to make the knockouts match one of the most anticipated bouts of Rebellion that night? I don't believe so, but you never know. Now, the most talked about moment for this week's TNA Impact is the match between the Hardys and the Righteous, which was a tables match. It had a lot of energy built up, and had a good payoff moment. And this is why it's number one. The moment a lot of people on YouTube already watched this match in full, not even a clip, not even the whole highlight of this week. They literally, there's more views for this whole match. The Hardys versus the Righteous for the TNA World Championship in a tables match. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, two men who literally invented what a tables match is supposed to feel like. They are the guys who put each other through tables at WrestleMania, who took the tag team division to a level it had never been at before. And at 40 plus years old, they still got it. We all know they still got it. The match was exactly what you want from two teams that generally do not like each other. Violent and unpredictable. Dutch and Vincent from the Righteous are one of the most underrated heel teams in all of professional wrestling right now. And they showed it again in New Orleans that night. The crowd was into every spot of this match. This was the loudest match of the night. The brawling spilled everywhere, and the stakes felt real because the Righteous had already jumped Matt Hardy on the previous episode back in March. It was a match that was meant to happen and also to get receipts paid off. Now, the fans were going wild about this match. They said they want to watch it again. They kept watching it again. There was a lot of replay value in this match. TNA is smart enough to know what's keeping the belt on Matt and Jeff Hardy right now. Going into Rebellion is the right call for them. It's going to keep more eyes into the product, and that's what you need, especially for a world where most of the tag team division and all the biggest promotions are pretty much dead. And it seems TNA is getting a lot of people into watching their product for a tag team action. I need to give an honorable mention to this segment, the Rosemary segment, that they had the most lore packed into 10 minutes of television this week. And we need to break it down to the best way possible and the best way I can find images. Thank you for the subscription. Much appreciated. If you haven't watched TNA since roughly, I guess, 2009, you were probably sitting at home watching this episode completely lost. You need to do it. If you haven't watched, you don't understand this segment, you definitely do need to do the research because otherwise you're going to continue being lost. Beautiful thing about TNA, they have a damn good YouTube page to watch replay. So definitely take a look about the Rosemary segment in the Undead Realm. Rosemary in the Undead Realm and a whole lot of moving parts. Here's exactly what happened. We open at Rosemary and Mara stayed in a cave. Rosemary is telling Mara to stay on guard, standard Undead Realm business, and then Allie pops up. Allie's obviously the girl right here, all smiling giggles. Yes, the Allie, who is apparently dead. We literally see a clip of her dying previously. But apparently Allie has had enough of being deceased because she shows up in the cave just over it. Sick of being undead, Rosemary looks at the two of them and decides they both need a makeover. New clothes, new energy, and they head off to find an outfit change in the Undead Realm. Meanwhile, and this is happening at the same time, Victoria Crawford is wandering around the Undead Realm, looking completely lost. Like she took a wrong turn somewhere between catering and the ring, and ended up in another dimension. We're not done. We cut back to Rosemary, who stumbles across a bunch of Shudder horror movies ads placing in the Undead Realm. Yes, Shudder, the streaming service. I guess they have a partnership with AMC. Advertising in a supernatural alternate dimension inside a wrestling show. TNA said, sponsorship integration has no limits, and I respect the hustle, even if I'm confused by it. Then Havoc kidnaps Smiley Moore. Just in case you thought things were about to calm down, we cut to Father James Mitchell, and this man is singing My Way by Frank Sinatra in the Undead Realm. I apologize. She is Rosemary, not Allie. I'm always confused with this segment. Rosemary walks in, praises him, tells him he's incredible. Mitchell immediately gets suspicious because he knows Rosemary. He knows when she wants something. And sure enough, she comes clean. She wants to do a deep dive into the 7 deadly sins, and she needs Mitchell's help to do it. Mitchell praises and raises an eyebrow. Rosemary smiles, and together they go off to find one person, one name, the final piece of whatever this plan is, which is Abyss. And then all of a sudden we go to be continued. Now, here's my honest take as someone who has been watching TNA for a bit now. This is creative. This is genuinely unique. In a wrestling world full of cookie cutter feuds and recycle angles, TNA built an actual alternate supernatural universe inside their show. Rosemary collecting souls, Mitchell singing Sinatra, Ali being tired of her own death, Abyss lurking somewhere in the background, even though he should be in WWE creative. or whatever his role is in WWE. On paper, it's compelling television, I gotta say. It's the reason why I started catching up with TNA again since back in COVID time, because that was the thing going for them, the storytelling. But here's a question I'm generally asking. How many years do you have been watching TNA to understand any of this? Because if you're a casual fan who turned into Impact this week, you saw a cave, a ghost, a Shutter ad, a kidnapping, a crooner, and a reference to Abyss, and you had absolutely no context for why any of it matters. The emotional weight of Allie's death, you had to be there. The significance of Mitchell's loyalty being questioned, you had to be there. Abyss being the endgame of this particular storyline, you definitely had to be there. TNA's greatest strength, their deep, layered lore, is also the biggest barrier to any new audience growth, unfortunately. And that's a real conversation that creative team needs to have heading into Rebellion and beyond for the rest of the year. The Undead Realm is must-see TV, I gotta say, for the hardcore fans. For everyone else, though, it's a fever dream they accidentally walked into. I love TNA for swinging big. I just wish they'd hang a previously on type of card maybe on the screen at the top of these segments so the rest of the world could catch up. So here's my take on TNA Impact for April. TNA gave us one segment that made us feel something real. One match that reminded us why they're still one of the most watchable promotions in the world. And one creative decision involved a child and a $20. And that's also something that we have to accept that happened. Heading into Rebellion, the knockout division looks generally good for the most part. The Hardys are rolling, and Santana versus Eddie Edwards for the TNA World Championship has all the ingredients on a banger if they let these two men talk to each other and mean it when they wrestle. But here's my question for you guys. Drop it in the comments when you can right now. Is TNA's Impact creative team a hit or miss right now? And are the Hardys the most must-see tag team division in wrestling of this year? Thanks for watching. If the T hit right, hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.